I still have little voices in my head, like telling me like, you're not a pro runner. Why do you like, you have no business going and trying to like get the FKT up Whitney. That definitely like crossed my mind several times. But I guess unless you try it, like you don't know.
Hey, it's Greg from Outdoor Goyo, your friendly guide to enjoying activities in nature. For this next interview, we wanted to shift gears and chat with somebody who wasn't necessarily in the public spotlight or a sponsored athlete, but pushing the limits in her sport nonetheless. Our guest today is not necessarily a pro, but absolutely a true badass ultra marathon runner. Please help me welcome the woman with the fastest known time running up and down the tallest mountain in the lower 48, Mount Whitney, in 5 hours, 19 minutes, Bri Jaskot. Hey, Brianna.
Hi.
Do you go by Brianna or Bri?
Usually Bri, just because it's one syllable. People usually default to that.
Yeah. Have you acquired any fun nicknames over the years?
Breezy. I think my main one. I don't know if that's fun, but yeah, Breezy.
I love that. Um, do you mind telling us like how old you are and where you live right now?
Yeah, I'm 30 and my husband and I live in Reno.
Cool. I saw on Instagram that you've experienced the van life.
Yeah.
How long did that last? And then what made you, I guess you're in a permanent home now,
Yeah.
like what made you shift gears?
Yeah. So long story short, we were in a lease in Ashland, Oregon. And like 2 months after we got into our lease, the people said that they were going to sell their house and we needed to move. So, and it was just after we had moved. Obviously, we'd only been there 2 months. So we're like, well, like, we don't want to keep moving. Let's just do the van thing. So we had 6 weekends to build it. So it was pretty rushed. Moved into the van. Like, I was still working like basically full time. My husband was working full time, Monday through Thursday. And then we would leave every Thursday night and go to like Crater Lake or Bend or Shasta, because we had a lot of stuff that was like within an hour, hour and a half, or like a couple hours from us. That was pretty awesome to go and explore. And we just did the work thing Monday through Thursday and then left every Thursday night and would come back Sunday night. And we
That's
did
really
that
cool.
for 6 months. And then we moved to Reno. And it's just harder to do van life in Reno.
Yeah, I think people glorify getting out in a van and living that life, but
Yeah.
what's something that you took away that was this reality of being in that space?
It's just a lot of logistics, like little things. I'd say it's pretty easy to adapt to them. But like, going to the laundromat regularly, dumping your pee in water every day, making a point to like go to the gym to shower. We had a SNAP membership, which was 24-hour gym. Like, it would have sucked to be in the van during COVID when all the gym
Mm,
shut down. Just like little stuff like that. You're just constantly planning, like, okay, well, where are we sleeping tonight? You don't want to sleep in the same spot every day, just to like not annoy people. We rarely slept in neighborhoods. We did a lot of BLM camping because like where we were in Ashland was super close to a lot of BLM land. So we had to drive like 20 minutes or so, which wasn't bad in order to be able to be on public land and not have to worry about anyone bothering us.
yeah, what are some of the activities that you guys get into?
Mainly trail running, and I guess like I'd say peak bagging, just like big days in the mountains, but like trying to combine summit days with like trail running, like ideally like as many peaks as we can link up in a day. That'd be our main thing. My husband likes to climb. I kind of do, but I would never like classify myself as a climber. I used to be a swimmer. I grew up a swimmer, so I do like open water swimming, but I don't do it as much as I used to. Learned how to surf last year, which is a lot of fun, but we're not really by water. So unless there's like really strong winds in Tahoe, like we're not getting any surfing in. Like, because people do surf the lake, but you have to have some pretty gnarly wins in order to be able to
Yeah,
do that. I don't know how I'd feel about that.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Does your family think that you're kind of crazy because you do a lot of these things, or
Like the running stuff?
yeah, the running stuff, or like did you grow up with that world of people like pushing the limits of your physical body and like climbing up mountains and stuff?
No, not so much. Like my mom was a runner. But so I grew up like riding my bike when she would go and run. So I think that was like a big influence on me to like want to start running. But no, no one in my family like does ultras or anything. And that's like my ultimate goal is to like start getting more into the ultra distances, like 50-mile or 100K, like 100-milers, things like that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, for those who don't know, what is ultra running?
It's classified as anything over a marathon. So anything over 26.2. But then at the same time, like there's plenty of mountain marathons that like even the people who are winning, it could take them like 6-7 hours to complete because the terrain is super technical and like there's just a lot of vert. So you could even say that like that's kind of an ultra. Like when you're out there for 6-7 hours, like that's a long time. Like
Mm-hmm.
some people are running fast 50-milers in like 8 hours, So
Mm.
kind of in that time frame, but typically anything over a marathon.
Yeah, and then peak backing is just that same thing of like how many summits can you get? And are you like trying to get certain summits over a certain elevation, or what's the peak bagging world?
Yeah. It's like I kind of hate saying that name, like peak bagging, but because it just seems like you're just like trying to like go after and like conquer all these mountains, and like I don't think that like anyone's ever conquering a mountain.
Mm.
But yeah, there's like the Peakbagger website has plenty of lists that you could go and tackle. So the I don't know what it stands for, but the SPS list is a big one. There's like 247 peaks in the Sierras that are on there. And I think the lowest one's 11,000, but they have tons of 11,000 foot peaks, 12,000, 13, 14. All the California 14ers, like that would be a list that a lot of people would try to set out and accomplish and do. This summer, with all the races being canceled, we've kind of made it our goal to do all of the Tahoe Oguls, which are a bunch of peaks, 63 of them throughout the Tahoe Basin. So kind of like north of the 80, like a little bit north of Truckee, like near Sierraville, and then all around the lake, and then a couple a little bit more south, like more obscure peaks, like lesser
Nice.
known ranges. Yeah.
And for
It's been
you,
a lot.
that's within a couple hours, so that's nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, just so everybody knows, as a backstory, I met Brianna at the top of Mount Whitney, which is the highest mountain in the continental United States, located in Eastern California. And then, since it typically takes people 7 or 8 hours to hike to the top with backpacks and food and water, I was impressed to see her running with just some water in her running clothes, like sprinting to the top. And she said that she was trying to beat the female record to get to the summit and just missed it by a few minutes. Why don't you tell us about like that whole experience?
So when I moved to this area in October, I got a coach, and that's like this is the first time that I've really taken running like super seriously and like consistently. So he had mentioned before, like, oh, when the races started getting canceled, like maybe we should like do Whitney as a hard effort, like possible FKT effort, and that had been thrown around like the last few months or so. But I got a last minute permit on Monday of last week and just texted him and told him that I was going down there, and he never mentioned anything about the FKT. So I'm like, oh, well, I'm in a build right now. Like I'm definitely not tapered. So maybe he's not thinking that it's possible. But I knew the time anyway of getting up there. It was like 3:09. And then the round trip was 5:29. So I just had that in the back of my head and thought like, well, I'm just going to go out and see what happens. Try and do my best. I'm hesitant to say I didn't feel super awesome. I don't know, just like honestly, like I didn't that day. Like I feel like that's just kind of how it goes. Like some days you feel really great when you're running and you're like giving a hard effort, feels, I don't like easy, I guess, or it doesn't feel as taxing. Like I felt like I was working from like step one. Like I was like totally gassed from the very beginning. So I definitely had to push pretty hard to like get up there and back down. But yeah, I missed the ascent time by it's like 7 minutes. It's kind of weird because Strava has an ascent time, which is 3:08, but it stops at the hut at the top, but that's not the true summit. So then at the FKT site has the true summit ascent time, which is like 3:09 in 30 seconds or so. So I haven't like really looked at my GPS data to see what my time was exactly like when I was on the summit versus the hut. But I got to the hut in like 3:15. But yeah, it was a gorgeous day. It was my first time going up to Whitney. I've been trying to get a permit the last couple years, and that mountain's just incredible. Like as soon as you pretty much get to trail camp and everything just opens up, it's like mind blowing. So if anything, I just want to go back and hang out back there and not have to like rush around. Because I was definitely like, I didn't want to stop. I think I stopped once to like snap a quick photo, but other than that, like everything was on the go. I was videoing on the go, like taking photos on the go. So I would like to go back and just enjoy Whitney.
Yeah, I was taken aback by that place, and just starting at 3 a.m. for me in the dark because we were hiking it was
Yeah,
awesome to see that sun hit the big walls and everything.
totally.
But like, how important is fear and failure to your development as a runner?
I still have little voices in my head like telling me like, you're not a pro runner. Why do you like, you have no business going and trying to like get the FKT up Whitney. That definitely like crossed my mind several times. But I guess unless you try it, like you don't know. I guess that's kind of how I approached that situation, I guess. But no, it's definitely something that I struggle with for sure. Like in terms of even setting big goals. Like my next one is to run around the Timberline Trail, which goes around Mount Hood. And I want to go sub 8, which would be a pretty good time. And there's like a big part of me that's like, okay, but what if you get like 10 hours or like you just like you say sub 8 and you put that out there into the world and then you just don't even get anywhere near that. And that might happen, you never know, like especially with days that last like multiple hours. On Whitney, I was fully expecting to, have my stomach go south and not be able to finish strong. You just don't know what's going to happen at 14,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
I could have got a super bad headache. I could have just been throwing up and, totally sidelined. Yeah. So I guess that was my relationship going into Whitney. But
Yeah. What about, do you even think about the time as being a failure at all, or how does that kind of process for you?
like not hitting it, the ascent time,
Mm-hmm.
I think I can get it.
Yeah.
Like 6 minutes isn't
Right.
that far off, or 7 minutes. So no, I don't consider it a failure. I just can, I guess I look at it more as like, okay, I could do these things better. I could go in like a little bit more rested. I think I could have fueled a bit better. I felt definitely pretty drained at the top. I think I could just spend a little bit more time above 12,000 feet and like just feel better at that altitude. So I think there's little things that like if I really wanted to attack Whitney again, I would change some things. So no, I guess I don't see it as a failure. But I know, I guess there's part of me too where it's like I'm not a pro runner. I don't have a bunch of pressure on me. Like no one's paying attention to me. So I guess for that reason, it's like, if I fail, it's not like there's a bunch of people watching.
It seems like through doing an action you're kind of like eliminating a fear that might just increase in someone's mind, right? And like the act of doing kind of releases that because
Totally
you're not
does.
doing
Yeah.
it. And then like setting realistic goals for yourself and learning from them turns like a failure into an incentive or motivation, right?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it can completely.
So we've all heard about runner's high, like when you're in this state of euphoria and you can't feel much pain or anxiety.
Uh-huh.
But when you're running really long distances, does your body go into a higher runner's high? Like what happens? What happens
Um,
to you?
Honestly, like I don't know if I've gone far enough to know the answer to that question. The longest I've been out is like 10 hours. So like a lot of people do like
That's
24
a
hours,
really long time.
but a lot of people do like 24-hour, like 100 milers will take 24 hours or longer, 36 hours for some. So I don't feel like I've ever experienced super low lows followed by like a high high. But I have definitely just like, felt awesome like running on the trails and like, yeah, nothing hurts. But then a lot of times I feel like a lot of my running is done super easy. Like I don't go out and hammer all the time. Like over 80% of my running is easy. So it always feels pretty good. Like I'm definitely not part of the like no pain, no gain like philosophy. So
Yeah, I was gonna ask you for people who aren't doing some of the activities that you're doing, maybe you can bring us into your world for a minute. What does it look like to train? What's your kind of normal routine?
yeah, I'd say probably average between 50 to 70 miles a week. And then depending on the time of year, like in winter, that could be 7 hours of training. Where right now I did 74 miles last week, and that was 16 hours of training, just because most of it's spent in the mountains, and the terrain's just a lot slower. And then you add in a lot of vertical, and that just makes your time on your feet a lot longer. Um, but yeah, running wise, that's about like how much I do. And then I also do a lot of band work and like core, like glute core stuff.
So from what I understand, you went to the University of Hawaii, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you studied psychology,
Yes.
but you also kind of studied nutrition too, right? Or something, some form of that.
I was a very confused college student and I switched my major. I'm not kidding. I switched it back and forth between psychology and nutrition like 4 times. So because of that, I graduated like 2 years late. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in nutrition as well.
That's cool because I think there's something awesome about like those two subjects in what you're doing because maybe you can tell us like how have those studies helped with your mindset but also your recovery and maybe like how has that changed over the years how you think about your sport, the mindset, and then your recovery in that cycle.
So in terms of nutrition, like I definitely put a huge focus on that now. Like when I was in college running or even high school, like full on standard American diet, like absolutely terrible like food choices. Um, Now, like I really do try to make a point to like eat healthy. However, like with ultra running, it's super hard to get in enough calories. So like I try to do that first and foremost. So like calories first, and then like try and make it as healthy as possible second. Because if you're not getting enough calories, just because you're like putting more importance on eating healthy and like eating high nutrient dense foods, then like you're not going to have the energy to go out and run and like complete the training. So that's kind of, I guess, my philosophy there. And then mindset wise, I mean, I didn't go to class as much as I should have. So I don't know if like my psychology degree really did much there. I feel like I learned the most from like just watching people like the Solomon videos. Like there are so many inspirational ultra running videos on YouTube or just online, or even like the documentaries. So I feel like I've learned the most that way, mindset wise, just like watching other people like suffer and go into the well and be like, I want to do that. Like, what can I do? What am I capable of?
That's really cool. I think what would be nice is if you have some of those videos or recommendations, maybe we can link them to this and share them with people to get them fired up.
Yeah. Oh, they will.
Yeah, there's many people are right now joining the outdoor recreation world since the pandemic started, in crazy amount of numbers. And people are seeing like nature for what it is, like an escape, and they're getting outside. What message do you have for people who may be interested in running or maybe are doing it lightly, but they might be intimidated or something like that?
To like go out on the trails, or
Yeah.
I feel like always start with what you are comfortable with. Like, it doesn't have to be super complicated. Like this isn't me, that I'm just like reiterating what Rich Roll says, but I listen to his podcast a lot. It's like the Rich Roll podcast. And he has people ask him that question all the time. And like his biggest thing is like, just don't complicate it. Like, it's not about the shoes. It's not about the watch. It's not about the pack. And like, I completely agree. Like, you can have all the gadgets in the world. Like, you just got to go out and do it. Like, and maybe that's just starting like around your block, like running a half mile around your block and making that a habit, and then like ramping it up to a mile, making that a habit, and then ramping that up to 3 miles. Like, you can't start like at 100. You got to work your way up there.
Yeah, there's ultra running, and running in general used to be, especially ultra running, is like used to be this outlier sport with just these like grassroots races. Is kind of like underground thing that people were doing. But now running and ultra running is this full-fledged events with like hundreds of participants. Like, where do you see, just being in it and aware of it, where do you see that sport headed in the future?
I think it's totally just going to keep on growing. Like, more and more races are becoming super competitive. Like, before, you used to be able to just sign up last minute for a race. Now, like, you have to plan your year out, like know exactly when the race opens up for registration, so you can like get on and register, which I think is awesome. I think it's great that the sport's growing. And because it is, there's only going to be more demand for more races. But yeah, I think it's great that people are hitting the trails and getting out there and pushing themselves. Yeah, I think our lives are just not challenging enough, in terms of physically anymore. Maybe they're stressful in other ways. I think that's why a lot of people really are, wanting to push themselves outdoors or in, whatever capacity they can or want to outside.
Yeah, I agree. So thanks so much. I mean, how can people follow you or support you on your journey and give you an attaboy and connect with you?
Mainly on just Instagram or Strava. So Bri Jaskot, is it Bri.Jaskot on Instagram, and then Bri Jaskot on Strava.
Cool. Well, we'll link it below, and I think that's really cool. Actually, I'll follow you on Strava. I didn't know you had that too, so that's really cool. But thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's awesome to get some of your inspiration out and hear some of your stories. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking me.